What's up, y'all? You're watching Union Minded. I'm your host, Eric, and today we are going to discuss the economic system of capitalism, and we're going to discuss it in the framework of Southwest Airlines and all of its cancellations and how it affects us all. This is going to be according to a news article from the AP News. Before we dive in, let me just say we hit 1,500 subs, so thank you for that. Thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Thank you for ringing the notification bell, leaving your comments. They provide the motivational fuel to continue to discuss labor with you guys. Don't forget to share the videos. Now, without further ado, let's dive on in. According to the AP News, Southwest Airlines flight cancellations continue to snowball, by David Coing and Heather Hollingsworth, December 28th, 2022. Travelers who counted on Southwest Airlines to get them home suffered another wave of canceled flights Wednesday, and pressure grew on the federal government to help customers get reimbursed for unexpected expenses they incurred because of the airline's meltdown. Exhausted Southwest travelers tried finding seats on other airlines or renting cars to get to their destination, but many remained stranded. The airline CEO said it could be next week before the flight schedule returns to normal. It's a lot of cancellations. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but I mean, this has been like national news, and it's been a ton of cancellations, over 2,500 cancellations, far more than any other airlines. And a lot of that has to do with the business model that these corporations work under, which is to extract as much profits as possible while spending as little as possible. We'll keep on reading the article, and we'll dive into it a little bit more as we go. Adontis Barber, a 34-year-old jazz pianist from Kansas City, Missouri, had camped out in the city's airport since his Southwest flight was canceled Saturday, hoping to reach a New Year's gig in Washington, D.C. He left his airport vigil Wednesday. "I give up," he said. "I'm starting to feel homeless." By early afternoon on the East Coast, about 90% of all canceled flights Wednesday in the U.S. were on Southwest, according to the Flight Aware tracking service. Other airlines recovered from ferocious winter storms that hit large swaths of the country over the weekend, but not Southwest, which scrubbed 2,500 flights Wednesday and 2,300 more on Thursday. The Dallas airline was undone by a combination of factors, including an antiquated crew scheduling system and a network design that allows cancellations in one region to cascade throughout the country rapidly. Those weaknesses are not new. They helped cause a similar failure by Southwest in October of 2021. That's a little more than a year ago. They had a similar problem a little more than a year ago with their system on how they schedule things, and they didn't bother to fix it. It was a little more than a year ago that they had the same problem, and they weren't forced to fix it. It just was allowed. So I don't have a lot of faith that they're going to be forced to fix this now. I think the only thing that will force them to do anything would be consumers stopping flying on Southwest Airlines. Other than that, I don't see the U.S. Government spanking Southwest and making them do the right thing. The U.S. Transportation Department is now investigating what happened at Southwest, which carries more passengers within the United States than any other airline. A Senate committee promises to investigate too. In a video that Southwest posted late Tuesday, CEO Robert Jordan said Southwest would operate a reduced schedule for several days, but hoped to be back on track before next week. "We have some real work to do in making this right," said Jordan, a 34-year Southwest veteran who became CEO in February. That means he knew about last year's joint because he's been there for a long time. So last year's failure he knew about. "For now, I want you to know that we are committed to that." Really? Why weren't you committed to it last year when it happened? Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who also was Transportation Secretary last year, who has criticized airlines for previous disruptions, said that meltdown was the only word he could think of to describe this week's events at Southwest. He noted that while cancellations across the rest of the industry declined to about 4% of scheduled flights, they remained above 60% at Southwest. From the high rate of cancellations to customers' inability to reach Southwest on the phone, the airline's performance has been unacceptable, Buttigieg said. He vowed to hold the airline accountable and push it to reimburse travelers. We'll see. They need to make sure that those stranded passengers get to where they need to go and that they are provided adequate compensation, including for missed flights, hotels, and meals, he said Wednesday on ABC's Good Morning America. Robert Mann, an aviation consultant and former airline executive, said the transportation department could force Southwest to pay refunds for all flights that were canceled for reasons within the airline's control, such as lack of crews. He estimated that could total 6,000 cancellations, affecting 1 million customers and adding up to $300 million. Since Southwest plans to pay, and here's a kicker, since Southwest plans to pay $428 million in shareholder dividends next month, the numbers are not life-threatening, although brand damage has been done. So rather than invest in the company to make it more efficient and make it run better and fix the susceptibility to cascading cancellations, they're going to give out $28 million to the shareholders. Here you go, little bonus. Here's another little tidbit. Southwest got $55 billion in federal funds when the pandemic hit, and they were given that money to protect their employees so that they wouldn't have to fire anybody. And while they didn't fire anyone, they did encourage a lot of their older pilots to retire early, leaving them with less pilots to be able to fly planes. Just another instance of a corporation under capitalism siphoning public money to enrich private owners. Those were public dollars that they took that was meant to keep their staffed up for when we recover. And instead, they got people to retire, and they pocketed the extra in the forms of dividends and buybacks. This is becoming a bigger and bigger issue as companies get bigger and bigger. Some consumer advocates are skeptical the government will punish Southwest. I am skeptical. William McGee, a travel expert at the American Economic Liberties Project, noted that the Transportation Department fined Frontier Airlines and several foreign carriers for slow refunds early in the pandemic, but didn't touch the 4 biggest U.S. airlines. What Pete Buttigieg should do and what he will do are probably 2 different things, McGee said. His group wants a change in federal law that would make it easier for states and private parties to sue airlines for harming consumers. On its website, Southwest told customers affected by canceled or delayed flights between December 24th and January 2nd to submit receipts. The airline said, "We will honor reasonable requests for reimbursement for meals, hotel, and alternate transportation." Navy physician, Lieutenant Commander Manoj Matthew said after spending hours on hold over 2 days, Southwest reimbursed him for the first leg of his family's trip from Washington to Houston. They drove through terrible weather after the December 23rd flight was canceled. Now he is worried whether Southwest will operate the return flight Sunday. "I'm trying to reach other airlines," he said. "There are no flights, plus it's very expensive for us." That's what happens when you're flying with a large family. It gets very expensive. Delta Airlines said it was capping last-minute fares in Southwest markets through the weekend. And American Airlines said it was also limiting fares in select cities. Neither provided figures. Leaders of Southwest labor unions have warned for years that the airline's crew scheduling system, which dates to the 1990s, was not keeping up as the route map grew more complicated. The fact is, this is not the same airline that Southwest co-founder Herb Keller built, where planes went point to point. Randy Barnes, president of the union that represents Southwest ground workers, said Wednesday. "If airline managers had planned better, the meltdown we've witnessed in recent days could have been lessened or averted." The other large U.S. airlines use hub and spoke networks in which flights radiate out from a few major hub or airports. That helps limit the reach of disruptions caused by bad weather in part of the country. Southwest, however, has a point-to-point network in which planes crisscross the country during the day. This can increase the utilization and efficiency of each plane, but problems in one place can ripple across the country and leave crews trapped out of position. Those issues don't explain all the complaints that stranded travelers made about Southwest, including no ability to reach the airline on the phone and a lack of help with hotels and meals. Teal Williams, a 48-year-old active duty Army reservist from Utah, was stuck at the Denver airport with her husband and 2 teenage kids on Christmas Day after their flight to Des Moines, Iowa was canceled. She said Southwest employees had no information about flights and didn't offer food vouchers, while elderly passengers sat in wheelchairs for hours and mothers ran out of formula for their infants. It was just imploding and no one could tell you anything, Williams said. The airline employees were desperately trying to help, but you could tell they were just as clueless as everybody else. It was scary. Unable to find a plane, train, or bus seats, Williams and her family felt lucky to score a rental car, and they drove 12 hours to Iowa. That's a crazy tale about a airline, a corporation that uses the laws that have been enacted in this system that we live in order to maximize their profit while minimizing their expense, and the result is the public got harmed. And who got harmed? A bunch of working folks. You see, the natural and inevitable result of the capitalist system that we operate under is extreme wealth for a tiny fraction of the population and abject poverty for the great majority. Capitalism depends on the kindness of wealthy people to provide a safety net for the poorest by way of providing pay for employment. What happens when automation removes humans from the production line? The wealthy will choose automation and take more profits while cutting the safety net called a job, adding to the number of the poor while gaining more and more wealth for themselves. The irony of it all is that without the workers, they could never have become wealthy. We can do better, but only if we choose to throw away old ideas and consider new ones. You see, the old way ain't working, so it's on us to do what we have to do to survive. We need to rethink how we negotiate for better conditions. We need to demand more of the wealthy, because power concedes nothing without a demand. You simply can't ask. That's what I want to end on this, because we need to be smart about our power as working people. We outnumber these corporations thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon millions to one. And if we can coalesce and move in a proper direction unified, there is no reason that we cannot create a more just society in which our quality of life isn't beholden to these heartless corporations that are just built to extract as much profit as possible. They don't see us. So we have to look to the left and we have to look to the right, and we have to see each other and see our humanity and know that we are in this together. Y'all remember, the fight's not left and right, it's up and down. And it's going to take solidarity to win always. Each one teach one, get out there and reach one. And there could be no union without you and I front and center. Peace.